But hold on. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world to America to Kabul, to Port of Spain. This is Del K. Brereton, and this is the real spiel. Shiloh Institute stand up. And to my mentor in the Hebrew language, that's the membership, the Cyclopses that are in the building. It's a cool day. My door is still not 100% closed. There you go. I know for all you folks who are tuning in from warm countries, it's cold up here in the Great White North. We're speaking to the King of the North, the Chocolate King of the North in Canada. And I'm here to have a conversation with you about the new American Revolution. The new American Revolution. Out of the words of conservatives, they said there's a new American Revolution and it will be bloodless if the left allows it. That's a quote. The new American Revolution. It will be bloodless if the left allows it. I think in order to figure out what these new radical conservatives, because it is a radical right-wing movement that is sweeping through the world from Israel to America, and if you do not consider it a revolution, you simply haven't been paying attention. It is a revolution. It is a reclaiming of the articles of the founders of particular colonized states, and it is what takes place when the left goes too far. When the left goes too far, what we have seen is that there is a severe and drastic knee-jerk reaction from the right. They become radicalized. I'll say it again. They become radicalized. And what you have to understand too is that the people who are becoming radicalized weren't necessarily always conservatives. Some people were Democrats. Like a brother said to me yesterday, some people were libertarians. Most people are in the place where there's a combination of things happening. They have felt that certain things have gone too far. Listen to one Caucasian Republican woman, and she said that she was a libertarian. She was a registered libertarian, and that she changed her allegiance and she actually voted for Clinton twice. And then she said she actually voted for Obama twice. And now she has voted for Donald Trump 3 times, effectively. She was there on January 6th. And she feels effectively that her country has gotten out of hand. And this is the middle of the road person, and it's not a stupid person, not of course an elitely educated person either, but someone who is basically right. They're apple pie American. They went to high school, they went to potentially junior college or university. They have an opinion, they have a worldview, and the Trump ideals. Let me not even say it in Donald Trump, because for her it is Trump, but these new conservative ideals resonate with her more than what is taking place in the Democratic Party. To her and to others like her, the left has gone too far. She also, interestingly enough, is pro-choice. but she feels that pro-choice for her has gone too far. Late-term abortion, she feels that's gone too far, to the point where she cannot place her allegiance behind the Democratic Party. And so what does all this mean? It means that people are clock, their consciousness about what they want for their world. And when you have enough people doing that, who come from the same Aboriginal regime or the same tribal background, the same ethnic background, and have this nostalgia that the country that they live in is theirs, a nationalistic view that this is our land, a patriotic view, a colonized but patriotic view that this is their land, they will come to similar conclusions. And this is how we get to things like Project 2025. Yeah, that's where I was going. Project 2025 is this concept of a new American revolution. And if I were to say it in a different way, and disenfranchise people who are listening to me potentially, that if you push white folks enough in their own country, they're going to stand up and say, no, I don't like this anymore. I'm not comfortable with this anymore. I want my country back. And Project 2025, and we're going to talk about, it's apparently quite exhaustive, but I'm going to talk about some of the aspects of it that caught my attention. And again, if you think that this idea is only specific to America, you haven't been paying attention. These principles of recapturing the founding fathers or the founding ideals of a nation are not only being dealt with in America, they're being dealt with in 3 major locations that all happen to be run by white people. They're being dealt with in America, they're being dealt with or appropriated or copied or mimicked in Israel, and they're also being, the same scenario is coming down the pipe in Russia. Russia, listen to this, American patriot. Your American Revolution is no different than Putin's annexing of the Ukraine. Putin wants the USSR back. Israel has said, enough is enough. These people are our guests, and we're about to let you know you serve, you exist, and you live under the occupation of our good pleasure. And last but not least, the United States of America, the same context has come to bear right now. And if I may go a little further before I get into the meats and the nooks and the crannies of Project 2025, the new American Revolution, and we can see all of our commentaries are coming out now, and I'm going to read all of them for those who are new here. I read them. I want to hear what you got to say. That word, that sentence is a dog whistle. Is a dog whistle for 3 demographics of people. It's a dog whistle for the white conservative American patriot. It's a dog whistle. It is a calling of arms. It is the blowing of the bugle to say, to arms, to arms. Our union is at risk. It is a calling to arms of the run-of-the-mill hillbilly mindset also in America. And when I say hillbilly, you're not a white supremacist. You're an individual who's grown up under the auspices of a country that has been started and founded by your ancestry. You have some blights to your history that you have closed one eye to, but all in all, you feel that's your country, you're proud of it, and no matter what, you're sticking with your country. And then the third dog whistle, of course, are the individuals who have structured and built not only your country, but Project 2025 is that radical white supremacist. That is a dog whistle. And all the dogs come home when that whistle is blown. It is a dog whistle. And that's why I put it up here. And that's why my comments is blowing up. I don't know what you're saying yet, but I'm going to let you know. I'm going to read it in a second. Project 2025, and I'm going to be as unbiased as I possibly can. The one section that I will start with, which Donald Trump and individuals who have formulated this particular document or this particular idea, and it didn't come from government. This first and foremost. This is not something that came from government and is now trying to be rolled out. It came from the private sector. It came from the idea makers. It came from the individuals who have right-wing conservative values, who wish this to become American policy and law. So understand that most revolutions start with revolutionary minds. People that wish to overthrow what they deem to be things that are dangerous to their existence or to their status quo. And it becomes something that becomes so malevolent or insidious that it has to be written with such subtlety that you don't understand what's really coming to you. But from the person who's writing it, from the person who's formulating this idea, they are formulating it not out of a malevolent or insidious mind, necessarily from their perspective. They're formulating it to dismantle what they think is a regime that needs to be destroyed. And so they are picking it apart slowly and surely, and let me show you where it begins. Actually, before I show you where it begins, let me give you an idea of Project 2025 when it came to West African slavery, just so you understand my perspective as an African man living in the West, how I see Project 2025 and how people like me see it, so that maybe when we start telling you about it, you will understand where we're coming from. Every other type of slavery in human history was not like the chattel slavery of the West African slavery Middle Passage. They did not dehumanize. They understood that these people were both people, human beings, as well as property, because they were slaves. But they did not see them as non-human. They also did not have to invent a concept of racism that made it seem that those people were inferior thinkers, were a devolved version of humanity, putting themselves in positions of superiority. In fact, in most ancient slavery customs, who were enslaved and who were taken as captives were the elite, were the beautiful, were the wise, were the most academically and informationally in-depth people, so that the new conqueror could actually glean off of their information, their wisdom, and the depth of what they could show them. This was not done in the West African Middle Passage. What was done was that certain laws were passed to make sure that new slaves became more oxen than human. You cannot educate a slave. It is illegal to educate him. It was illegal for him to learn how to read or her to learn to read. You're not supposed to make these people intelligent. And if you were to actually give them any information, the only information you were to give them was information that would perpetuate their submissiveness to this dominant slave master. We are also going to create new science, anthropology. We are going to create science that demonstrated to these people that they were part of a lower sphere of human existence and that we are part of a higher level. Third part, we are also going to create religion or affect current religion to show them that we are actually their gods and that they are a cursed people and that their slavery is actually God's decision for their lives. That is America. That is America. That's how America was built. That's how black people were positioned to believe and to think in America. And that's why you have things like institutional racism, you have hegemony, you still have self-hate. That's why you have MAGA, blacks in 2024, the Black MAGA movement, and all of these things where black people have identified themselves as their colonizer and haven't actually sought true identity. And that's why sometimes, as Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed many more slaves if they only knew that they were slaves, as I go on. The 2025, Project 2025 ideology that's being laid out, one of the most insidious aspects of it is what I heard Mr. Trump speaking about in respect to education. And what the intentionality is to make sure that they strip, first of all, phase one, strip all universities of their accreditation who do not teach according to the principles and platforms and ideologies that we lay forth to be true. We will not let you teach, we will let you teach it, but we will take away your accreditation if you teach anything that opposes our view or our historical position. This is similar to what DeSantis tried to do in Florida. Currently, what is taking place, and again, this is not something that is unique to America. I want you guys to know that when an ideology, whether it be evil or whether it be good, starts to spread itself throughout the world, it cannot be contained. It's like an airborne virus. It goes out. The charismatic movement of the early 19th century, that went all over the world. It hit ancient faith. It hit America. It hit Africa because it's a movement. Currently in Canada, currently just a little north of where you are, remember, same founding fathers. In the province of Ontario, they have predetermined that the status quo cannot teach African Canadian people their history. That all education must have an African Canadian base point to it. We must insert Black history into the curriculum, especially where there are large populations of Black people. This is what they have determined in Ontario. The issue is, where are you getting it from? Because to most white people, Black history begins in slavery. To most white people, Black history begins in the 1400s. Black history began in the Garden of Eden. It doesn't begin in the 1400s. It began in the Garden of Eden. And you extrapolate from there. So the question is, and I have, as an educator in Canada, I have put that to various heads and boards and saying, where are you getting this Black history from? Where's this Black history coming from? How can you teach Black history when you don't have curriculum for Black history? And then who's giving you the curriculum? First of all, if that curriculum comes from America, it's not the same Black history. So I don't want to digress too far into that. When you, as the dominant class, who have a history of sending out misinformation, of erroneous history, decide that you are going to be the people that give accreditation and take accreditation away from institutions of learning who don't teach what you want to teach, you are now in a very scary place. I remember when what is current right now in society, how they were going to set CCTVs everywhere, all over the place, that everybody was going to be surveillanced. And people were screaming, oh my goodness, our rights are being infringed upon, our privacy, the government's going to be looking at everything, subways, streets, everything's going to be video recorded, and people were losing their mind over that. Well, in 2024, you're not losing your mind over that anymore, because it was done. Everything is video recorded. Everything. You are being video recorded everywhere you go, everywhere you are, and you're very comfortable with it. You're extremely comfortable with it now, because they hit you with it, and now you don't have any choice. You have video on the highways of when your car goes on and when it goes off. You have CCTV video everywhere. You have video from outer space that can find you anywhere on Earth. You have that, and you're comfortable with it now because that's what it is. And so when these broad agendas start coming down, start telling you that we are going to now tell you what you're allowed to teach, please understand that from people from my perspective consider that to be a very dangerous thing. And therefore, like the church had to do in the early 2000s, as it became, and this is again why the right is the right, when it became known that they were going to put pastors in jail if they preached against homosexuality, if they preached against the LGBTQ community, they were going to call it hate speech, and they said they're going to put you in jail. And pastors backed down. They stopped talking about it. And the LGBT community didn't stop there. They said, not only are we going to look for legislations to consider the Bible hate speech, we're going to make sure that we put these pastors in jail if they speak against it. So they want the Bible to be hate speech. They wanted the preachers to go to jail, right? And then part 3, they wanted their own churches. They wanted inclusion into ancient Christian religious formats that said we don't allow this. They also piggybacked on the what would I call it? On the feminism movement, saying not only should there be gay priests, there should be women priests, and got a coalition with left-leaning and supremacist women groups that says we should be priests, you should be priests, we all should be priests. And so certain churches bend to that. The Anglican Church, women priests, women bishops, right away. Some of you are thinking, what's he talking about? Why can't women be priests? That's another conversation, but they can't. Just like can't be a mother, right? There's lots of places in the church for women to operate and for women to preach. But the office of the priesthood is not one of them, never was. And so you have these things that took place, but again, their ally became the gays. The gays and the women joined together, and now it's commonplace. It's commonplace to say, I've had people message me and say, hey, don't go to that church preaching your stuff and getting these people in trouble, saying anything against the LGBTQ community because that pastor might get in trouble. I've had people tell me that. Don't go over there and say anything like that because they don't want that kind of smoke. I've had Christian pastors tell me, wow, you really like to get controversial. I was like, have you read the Bible? So my point is that these are not new things. These coalitions that get together to overthrow ideas and to destabilize common sense are not new. But at the same time, I don't want to necessarily besmirch an entire new American revolution by saying that you're trying to do things that the radical left are doing. No, you're trying to do things that the radical right have been doing. The radical right are the people that founded your nation. These are radical rights, individuals that truly believe in what was referred to as the white man's burden to civilize and educate the heathen, the savages. And these types of notions that are currently present in today's America. You have people, we're not gonna throw everybody into the Ku Klux Klan because that just makes me sounding crazy. Not all white people are in the Ku Klux Klan or have mentalities of white supremacy. But when you have now adopted a mentality that everyone's information except yours is invalid, you become a dangerous person. This is the Trumpism of America. Everyone's information is invalid unless it comes from one voice. That's why I talked about Pence yesterday. Mike Pence became enemy number one because he didn't agree with Trump. Any Republican that doesn't agree with Trump becomes an enemy to the union, to the nation. He becomes a traitor. He becomes Benedict Arnold. He becomes the antithesis to this great new American revolution. That's bloodless, if the left allows it. What a sentence. It shall be bloodless, if the left allows it. Wow. I think also that when we have conversations about education is the formalizing and accepted understandings of what the world deems to be true. Education is the formalized and accepted understanding of what the world believes to be true. When you make education subjective, you make information subjective. And this is the entire current regime change that is being referred to as an American revolution. When people who speak like Elon Musk and have the bully pulpit of one of the largest information platforms in the world, he can force his information to become education. And it's a dangerous place, and people say this all the time, when you're getting all your information, your education from social media. It is a dangerous thing to do. Especially when you can't research it, when you can't look at it, when you can't scrutinize it, when you can't debate it. It's dangerous to simply just listen to a guy driving in his car and taking all of his information and saying that information is true. No, you go and research your information. I'm sitting here with no notes. I'm not reading from a script. This must be somewhere located in my mind. I am not reading a teleprompter of somebody force-feeding me information to bring about an agenda. I am showing you the perspectives of history, of how these things repeat themselves in the context of history, and how sometimes people do have to re-educate themselves to the foundations of where they came from. That's not always bad. And that's why I'm trying to be fair. What do you mean it's not always bad? The book of Ezra in the Bible. Ezra, after having the Judaites, the Hebrews, spent 70 years in Babylon, and then spend time under Persian occupation. Some of these folks, they took on foreign wives. They had foreign children. They adopted foreign practices. They forgot the actual letter of their Mosaic law. And Ezra, the priest, had to now teach them back to the original way. And sometimes that has to be done. That's why I said sometimes it can be good and sometimes it can be bad. That's why I said that initially, because I'm coming from an ideological place, a platform that I know to be truthful, because my foundation is scriptural in anything that comes out of my mouth. So Ezra said, you've got to abandon some of these things. You've got to leave some of these, you've got to leave your wife. These wives, these foreign wives are going to contaminate the bloodline that is supposed to be the pure bloodline of the Judite. And guess what? The white supremacist is using that too. They are using that context and saying, yeah, we've got to make sure that we can keep white America white. Ezra did it. Ezra was trying to keep Judah for Judah. He was trying to make sure that the Hebrew blood was pure. You've got to do the same thing here. Now, that's how something can be taken completely eisegetically out of context and used in a completely wicked way, but the ideology still holds. And there are Americans who simply want their country to remain controlled predominantly by white Caucasian conservative people. And if you think that's not true, you're crazy, because it's true. But now the question is it wrong? That's the question for folks like myself. Is it wrong? Is it wrong for the white American to say, I want my country to stay white? I want my daughter to marry a white American. I want my son to marry a white American. I want to have a white American as my president, as my governor, as my mayor, as my dog catcher, as my milkman. I want it to be my country. And I don't mind if other people come here, but I want to control it. That is the question on the tongues of a conservative America. That is the new American Revolution that's happening. It is not a colorblind society. You don't live in that. You don't live in a colorblind society. You don't. And the hard part is when you are not a white American and you have to listen to that rhetoric and you say, whoa, what did you just say? Yeah, I'm an American. We founded this country. I want to keep it white. I got no problem against you, black man, but I want to keep my country white. That is what the African American, predominantly the African American, because the country was built on your back, your blood, your sweat, your bones are buried in every square inch of America. That's the reality that you have to walk around every day and realize that in the United States of America, there is a preponderance amount of people who are not altogether hateful, but who absolutely want to remain in control of that country. And they will give you certain things to be able to do. You can be LeBron James in their America. You can be Martin Luther King in their America. You can be Eddie Murphy, David Chappelle. You can do Sammy Davis Jr. No problem. No problem. We got no problem with you doing that. I don't think we want you to be Kaepernick, though. We don't like those kind of Negroes. We don't like them. You can be Michael Jackson. We have no problem with you being him. Just leave our little children alone. You've got to understand that in America in 2024, you are still a tolerated race. You are tolerated. And you are only tolerated for as long as you do not push us to the place where we have to snatch back some of your rights. Because Project 2025, Trump's edict of he is going to go after the accreditation of universities and schools. He is going to make sure that he pulls and say out of his own mouth, fires those educators who are teaching things that he does not endorse. He is saying clearly, Howard's, the black colleges, that they are about to, the same thing that he said, I'm going to be great for the black universities, I'm going to give more money than Obama did, which was not true. He did give a lot of money, but not more than Obama. He is saying that I am here now, and I'm going to hold you accountable to everything that you say is going to be taught. And if you teach things that we deem to be dangerous to our way of life, we're going to take your accreditation back. So what does that mean? Again, what does that mean to the black person in America? First and foremost, it means that you absolutely have to go off reservation when it comes to things like education. Education should not be about who accreditizes your educational standards or institutions. It should be whether or not that education is true to the historicity of what you come from and who you come from. Imagine the polarization that's taken place in this election about an African American woman who absolutely comes from a black father and who absolutely comes from an Indian woman, that people were sitting there saying and questioning her blackness. And even some black people who were indoctrinated with this level of ignorance had the audacity to question the blackness of a black woman in America. Why is that? Because things like Project 2025 work on you. Propaganda still works on you. Misinformation still works on you. Self-loathing still works on you. Turning you on each other still works on you. It still works on you. Because you had the audacity too, as black people in America, to question a black person. Bill Clinton is the first white man, a Black Hall of Fame. Did you guys know that? They put President Bill Clinton in what was referred to as the Black Hall of Fame because Clinton was the first president to appoint certain black people to offices, and they were the firsts of the first to be there. And so they felt that, well, since Clinton was putting certain black people in those particular offices, let us be the first to appoint him as the first white man to go into the Black Hall of Fame. It was a reciprocal kind of gesture. But if Bill Clinton is in the Black Hall of Fame, and you had a black president who is absolutely 50% white, clear, his history is clear, and you now had a presidential elect, or sorry, a vice president who is running for the presidency. She's not the president-elect, sorry, I misspoke. But you have a presidential candidate who is also 50% black and 50% Indian or South Asian, which is a ridiculous way to describe somebody who comes from a continent, a subcontinent called India. How can her blackness be less than Obama when Obama is 50% black and she's 50% black and Indian? And for those who don't understand, India is an incredible indigenous black population that comes from India. For those who don't know that, please go do your own research. There's an incredible black population that comes from India. That's right, black people don't come just from Africa. You know that, right? There's an incredible black population that comes from Australia too. Did you know that? It comes from other parts of Asia too. It comes from the Middle East that you refer to it as too. They're Afro-Semitic. They come from South America too. The indigenous of black people is something that's not localized to simply the continent of Africa. And for you to destabilize Kamala's ethnicity is a demonstration that concepts like Project 2025 is already working on your mind. You're already complicit. just like black people were complicit in some of their own deplorable oppression. Some of you were complicit. Some of you were the best slave catchers white people had. Some of you. We know about the house Negro and the field Negro. We know all of that. But we got some slave catchers right now who are complicit in this mindset. And so Project 2025, listen, there's going to be some things in there that some of you might like. Let me go further than the educational piece, which I could stay on for an hour, but I won't. Other aspects of Project 2025 has been to, and let me talk about some things that I actually agree with. Let me sound crazy to some people. The LGBT community has received a motherload of rights and privileges and protections that shouldn't belong to the LGBT community. They should belong to humanity. They shouldn't belong to a section of our community, our world community, that simply is identified by who they choose to have sex with. Imagine. How does that, I'm talking things that don't make common sense. How are you an identified community based on your sexual proclivities? How does that make you a specific type of human? I have sex leaning to the right. And therefore, because we are right-leaning sex people, we believe that our rights should be protected. The certain rights that gay people have been afforded should not have been afforded to them because they are identifying themselves as a sexually specific group of people. These rights should be human rights. Human rights. Not sexually specific rights. Also, when you move from gay and you go into transgender, and this, again, didn't begin the other day when one of my heroes, Bruce Jenner, after making his transition to being Caitlyn, was put on People's Magazine as the Woman of the Year. You know that the world has lost its mind. The world's lost its mind. When Bruce Jenner became the Woman of the Year, People's Magazine, I don't know, it doesn't matter if you're black, Asian, Latino, white, didn't matter. South Asian, let's throw them in there. Australian, European. When Bruce Jenner became the Woman of the Year, Caitlyn, Bruce became the Woman of the Year, didn't some of you say, has the world lost its mind? Has the world lost its mind? When you see men or young boys transition and start to compete with your daughters, start to compete with young women in Olympic sports, boxing, and other sports, and these men who have transitioned and received apparently woman parts start beating the crap out of women, don't you sit back and think to yourself, have we lost our mind? When you saw the bathrooms and they took the little women's sign off the bathroom, the men's sign, and the bathrooms became open genders, didn't you think, has the world lost its mind? I had a little experience. My daughter was playing in our state championship tournament. I call her my power forward, the baddest power forward in high school at the time. And she did not go on to continue her basketball prowess because she became a girl and went to university and she's trying to become a lawyer. But she's disappointed me because I wanted a basketball playing lawyer. Yeah, I did. But in high school, she was the baddest power forward in Ontario. She went up against a team from Toronto that had at least 2 transitioning girls on that team. At least 2. One of the little boys, girls, when he wanted to be a boy, oh, you could see it. He switched. His aggressiveness, his speed, his athleticism was like, oh, watch it there now, Dorothy. You're becoming a boy right here. And the way that he switched from being a boy and a girl, and I was like, if this little boy just really wanted to be a boy, this game would be over. But my power forward took care of him. Okay? She took care of him. She dealt with his case, and we won that game. Although they had 2 little boys in that team, my power forward took care of that. Now, the story would have been great if it ended there, but this is how that story ended. After the game, that same little boy, girl, boy, came up to my other younger daughter and said to her, "Hi, what's your name?" My daughter told her name. "My name's Jericho." Now, my little 12-year-old knew that little boy, girl, she knew her situation, his situation. She's very polite. He was very polite. He told her her name, his name, her name, and said, "You gonna play basketball too like your sister? She's really great." She goes, "Yeah, I hope so." She goes, "Well, stick with it. Nice to meet you." Now that little boy, girl, was a nice little boy, girl. Nice. She is transitioning out of her environmental scenario. It was a very nice little boy, little girl. And my daughter looked at me and I said, "Hey, very nice." She goes, "Yeah, Dad, she didn't know what to say. Very nice." I said, "Love, the issue is not whether or not the little boy, little girl is nice. The issue is that how God made him, for some reason, the people around him did not encourage him to stay that way. It's not a matter of whether or not he's a nice person. Clearly, she is a very nice person. Very nice person. Not a great basketball player, but a very nice person. And this level of confusion in the mind of my 12-year-old daughter, sitting there in the stands, and the whole time I'm saying, "That is not a little girl out there." She's like, "Dad." I'm like, "Baby, that's not a little girl." She's like, "Oh, Dad, you might be right." I go, "It's not a little girl." And then meeting that little boy, little girl, and realizing she's a human being. He's a human being. He, she, whatever he decides to call himself, herself, deserves the protection of humanity, but does not deserve special rights. Doesn't deserve special rights. Because when he walks down the street, or when he crosses a border, or when he's pulled over by a police officer, he will not be discriminated against because of his gender. My daughters will, though. My sons will, though. In America, they absolutely will. And so now, when Trump says they want to take back some of these rights that they've given to the LGBT community, the only thing that causes me to be cautious or pause myself is to say, because I understand the insidiousness of these things, how much of those rights that you are clawing back will affect me and my children? How will you slip in language that doesn't simply just attack or target a group of people that have decided to have a specific sexual proclivity or have decided to go against what God made them and create them, change themselves into something else. How much of that language will affect me? Well, it didn't take long for me to ask that question, because affirmative action is also on the chopping block. You see, when you take away gay rights, and this is what the gay community tried to do, that I rejected, is when the gay community said, hey, let's have a coalition with you blacks because this is civil rights. Nope. No, it's not. You're not being discriminated against because of how you were created. You're being discriminated against because of a proclivity and a choice that you're making about your sexuality. You're not being discriminated against because you came out of the womb with nappy hair, with beautiful full lips, with gorgeous melanin skin. You're being discriminated against because you decide to identify yourself as something that you were not born as. You were not born as. Okay? But now, when you reverse it, when you pull away rights from the gay community, which is why these Dems are so the Democratic Party, they're so careful when they hear this talk, is that when you pull away rights from the gay community, how much of that affects the black community? The marginalized, visible minority. How much of that affects them? That's what they want to know. And so affirmative action now rolls into there. Yeah, affirmative action. DEI hires. Diversity and equity hires. Diversity and equity. Listen to this. We do not want people being hired because of their diversity. Listen, say it again. Say it to yourself. Say it out loud. Say it out loud. We don't want to hire people simply because of diversity. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud to yourself, doesn't it? And the reason that diversity must be forced upon a colonizing nation formed under the auspices of slavery and white supremacy is because in order for actual fairness to be in your nation, you must legislate it. You cannot allow the bias of the dominant tribes to be what takes place as policy. You have to create it. If you want a nation that allows for the melting pot of your population to grow, you have to legislate fairness. It has to be done. But when Trump says, we're going to get rid of that too, what are they saying? What are they really saying? And yeah, are there some things in affirmative action that have probably gone too far? Probably. There might be, right? I would love if they went into the Family Law Act and just threw that whole thing in the garbage. They've gone too far in the Family Law Act too. They've taken away men's rights in the family law systems all over North America. Overhaul that. No, they ain't gonna do that. So when you're dealing with this type of political agenda, and you're trying to call it an American revolution, ladies and gentlemen, you got to be very careful. For those that buy into it, you've got to be extremely careful what you're buying into. You got to be extremely careful what type of America is going to show up, because these things don't take long to take root. They don't take very long. They don't take very long to take root whatsoever. The same woman I was talking about earlier. You're going to go to protests, and they did this in the 60s. You will go to a protest, and in the background there, they've got Antifa there, creating a little situation. You're like, oh, we're not them. We've come peacefully, but you're standing shoulder to shoulder with people who are there with pipe bombs, people there who are ready to beat up people because of the color of their skin. The 60s they did it. Oh, we didn't come here for that. We came here for this protest. Yeah, but in the back there, they've lynched a black woman, and you're standing there taking pictures with her. It's the same thing. It's the same America. And you got to be doggone careful. Let me see what y'all got written down here. I've talked. I want to see what you guys are saying. I'm tired of giving people breaks that support clearly non-fit person for office. I hear you. Trump comes correct. Trump applies himself. Aboriginal doesn't mean what you think. Stop using words you don't know how to use. Interestingly enough, my master's tells me I know how to use them. So does my PhD, but it's okay. You accept Trump. We need Trump to help Canada. Really. Let me see. We didn't need your breaks. Just sit back and watch your country get better. I hope everyone in the world don't think all Americans supported this. Let me see. I want to read some more of this. We pull over and get myself a little read here. Get myself a little read, and I'll go back on the road. I do want to read this. The live drive, baby. I want to read some of this. Let me see what y'all got to say, and then I'll finish this off here. I've been going for 56 minutes anyway. She goes against her own interests. If you support evil, then guess what? Your moral compass is what? Is what? Let's say it together. Let me see here. I'm no longer associating myself with talking to Trump supporters. You guys have to learn on your own. Bro, how we lose? I digress. Hello, N-Man. Okay. You slave. Oh, wow. We got a lot of folks coming out here. Dog whistles. Preach, Wendell. Thanks, Job. No one's blaming Trump for our lives. You're not getting it. He's unfit for office. He's clearly unfit for office. Let me see. You're a very smart person, but also appear to be stuck in a perpetual victim mentality. Heard that before. That's the dog whistle. When people don't want to hear the truth, they say victim mentality. When you don't want to take accountability for your culpableness in the historical sins of your ancestors, and you don't want to take accountability for that, what you say is that, oh, you're stuck in a victim mentality. As opposed to say, wow, what took place in the past was dead wrong. It was terrible. And I realized that I stand on the shoulders of privilege that was purchased by the blood of your ancestors. And I understand that in this country, it puts me in a position of advantage, and that I have to be responsible now to say, how can I balance the playing field? You don't say that. You say, you're stuck in a victim mentality. Right. Let me see here. What about the history of every other race? Not everything is about black people. What about Native Americans, Hispanics? You act like black people are the only people to be oppressed. Again, that's just moving the goalposts. Why don't you stay on topic? Because if you look at the things I've talked about, I talk about everybody. I don't just talk about us. All right. Thinking is going to be new for some of us. You, sir, are a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm a lion. Don't put me as a wolf, baby. I'm much bigger. I'm a conquering lion. I'm glad that he's live and people on here can see what I'm talking about just by conversation with Trump supporters. There you go. I lived in Canada my whole life, then lived in the USA 5 years. Canada is far more racist. Canada is built by the same people. So I do not disagree with you. I'm hoping Tim Scott gets more involved. Also Ben Carson as well. Stop the hatred if you do the job right. Skin color is stupid. If skin color is stupid. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. If skin color is stupid, I have a little game for you. If you think skin color doesn't apply, right? What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to find the urban section of wherever you live. I want you to walk into that urban section by yourself, 2 o'clock in the morning. I want you to carry money in your hand. And I want you just to walk around. As a white person, go walk around in an urban section of a place you live. And let's see if you feel uncomfortable. Because skin color is stupid, right? Nobody's gonna. Just walk around. We'll see how you feel in those particular areas. If you think your skin color is, people don't see it like that, right? Because I promise you that if certain skin colors come to certain areas in white America, they will be greeted very differently. So I wish skin color was stupid in America. I wish that was the case, but it's not the case. I'm going to close with this. It is a responsibility of all Americans, of all colors, of all complexions, of all political leanings, to look into the grandiose agenda of what is clearly being formulated as this new regime. Trump has said things like this is going to be the last election. Trump has said things that I'm going to be a dictator first. We know Trump doesn't create policies. He might be able to now with a Senate that is predominantly Republican. But he is a person that will shove things down your throat because he doesn't have the patience to govern. But this is not about governing anymore. This is about the consciousness of America. This is about what you allow to be part of your union and what you allow to stand shoulder to shoulder with. And now you're being you're in a very highly responsible place, because from January 6th, that day that some of you who claim to have been there decided to overthrow your own nation, to today, where you put the same person back in place, you have to now examine the quality of your moral fiber. Gentleman in here said, if you support evil, then what does that make you? Am I calling Trump evil? I guess you're going to have to see again. I guess you're going to have to, he's got a second opportunity to demonstrate that he is not. He's got a second opportunity to demonstrate that he is not going to raise up some of the most radical, racist mentalities in America and fan the flames of those things for his own particular support. He has an opportunity to actually do what he said, that I'm going to be a great president to black people. He has an opportunity, but I think he's shifted now. And I said it, and you can go back a couple of videos. Do black people have to be afraid of Trump? No. But Latinos, y'all in a lot of trouble. Because you are the fuel that he's using to push his agenda forward. The massive movements to deport illegal migrants is coming straight to the Latino community. Legal and illegal, it's coming straight to you. You are going to be the new agenda for white America. They're not afraid to come after black people, but that's an old thing. They don't want to do that. But they can come full head of steam. They can smash their way into the Latino community and say, we're trying to throw out all these illegal immigrants and paint Latinos as this illegal group of people. And the funny part is that most Latinos, this word Latin, you're Anglo-Saxons, you're Caucasians, most of you, unless you're Afro-Latino. But effectively, they've said we're targeting a section of our European community who is illegal in our country, who have now become indigenous with some of the South American natives, and now you're Latinos. And those are the people they're coming for. They're coming for you guys. And so we are going to sit on the sidelines, and we're going to watch the Latino community become the new N-word for 4 years in America. And then you're going to have a different perspective than just a black person sitting here saying, well, this is a black issue, this is a black issue. Don't worry. You're not going to have to worry about us. We're not going to cry murder. The new George Floyds will be Latin Americans. The new Trayvon Martins are going to be Latino boys and girls. And I hope there's somebody there with a phone or a video camera to capture it so that you see what I'm saying. God bless you. This is Del K. Brereton. This is The Real Spiel. The New American Revolution, terrifying.